Hello, everyone. You're listening to Cinema 5000. My name's Mallory. This is my podcast. How's it going? It is now October. I'm recording this on October 9th. It's been kind of slow going for me. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't been watching a lot of movies, and last night I was gonna go to the movie theater and I was just kind of like, I just don't think I can do it tonight. I canceled my ticket and I was kind of like, I don't want to leave the house. Maybe it's because the season's really changing for real where I am, and it's getting noticeably colder. Gotta put the shorts away and the flip-flops, unfortunately. But no, I haven't had the real, I don't know. It comes and goes, your feelings of I want to commit to sitting down and watching movies. I usually feel like I want to, 99% of the time, but no, it just hasn't been really happening for me. But why are we here? This is the Rewatch Recap episode, the third episode of 2025, recapping all the movies I watched again through the months of July, August, and September. The regular count, what we're at for anything I'm seeing, new to me, is 5,858 films. And like I've said before, there's no way we're getting to 6,000 in 2025. It'll be 2026 when we do that for sure. But yeah, I did watch some movies. This is one of the shorter rewatch episodes for as far as numbers of movies I've seen, I want to say for sure, since I've started doing the podcast. That's not to say I didn't watch a lot of movies between July, August, and September. I just wasn't rewatching a lot of movies. So, yeah. Where do we start? Well, back in the end of July, I only rewatched one movie in the entire month of July. I rewatched After Hours from 1985, directed by Martin Scorsese. The tagline is, "When it's after midnight in New York City, you don't have to look for love, laughter, and trouble. They'll all find you." Desperate to escape his mind-numbing routine, uptown Manhattan office worker Paul Hackett ventures downtown for a hookup with a mystery woman. I've watched this movie so many times. I've only logged it 3 times on Letterboxd. It's also something I have randomly just turned on and maybe not finished, but started. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Gave it 5 stars. It's terrific. If you have never seen After Hours, I think you should watch After Hours. It stars Griffin Dunne, Rosanna Arquette, Verna Bloom, Tommy Chong, Linda Fiorentino, Terry Gard, John Hurd, Cheech and Chong, Catherine O'Hara, Dick Miller, Will Patton, Bronson Pinchot. Hey, it's a pretty great cast. It's a pretty great movie. I definitely think you should give it a look if you have not seen it. Then in August, when exactly in August? It was probably midway through the month, I rewatched The Shrouds from 2024, though technically getting a theatrical release in 2025. Directed by David Cronenberg. The tagline is, "How dark are you willing to go?" Inconsolable since the death of his wife, Karsh, a prominent businessman, invents a revolutionary and controversial technology that enables the living to monitor their dear departed in their shrouds. One night, multiple graves, including that of Karsh's wife, are desecrated, and he sets out to track down the perpetrators. This stars Vincent Cassel as Karsh and Diane Kruger as a couple characters. She plays Becca and Terry specifically. I'm not going to say what else she does, but also in the film is Guy Pearce as Maury, who works with Karsh on some things. I'm not going to spoil this movie because it's a newer movie, but I really like how very sad this movie is. How grief works in mysterious ways, and how we deal with the loss of a loved one in our lives, how we, move on or maybe don't. I think this is a really solid performance from Vincent Cassel. It's a fascinating movie. It is very much a Cronenberg movie, and it might seem a little stilted to some audiences, but I found it to be very haunting and enjoyable and fascinating. And it's creepy. It's one of those movies that's sort of stuck with me, and I know for sure I rewatched this when it came on the Criterion Channel. I was like, ooh, gotta rewatch it because it's on there. Yeah, so I would definitely recommend this movie for sure. It's probably going to be one of my favorites of the year that I'll talk about at least at the end of the year. Give it 3.5 stars. I don't think it's a perfect movie at all, but I find it very much one that lingers when it talks about relationships and life and how we do or do not move on. Another one that definitely lingers. It's The Swimmer from 1968, directed by Frank Perry. When you talk about The Swimmer, will you talk about yourself? A man spends a summer day swimming home via all the pools in his quiet suburban neighborhood. Stars Burt Lancaster as Ned Merrill, who is the man who is swimming home. I've seen this movie so many times at this point. This is like my favorite summer movie, even though it is so dark. It kind of works like a Twilight Zone episode. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Gave it 4 stars. During the beginnings of the pandemic in 2020, I was introduced to this film, and then soon after I got myself the Blu-ray copy of it, just because I knew like it would look really fantastic on a Blu-ray, and it does. It's a good release. I think it's by Grindhouse. But I think this is one of like my favorite movies ever at this point. I've just seen it so many times. It's so haunting. It's really great. I love the script for this one, just the way it progresses, and it's just a nice movie to look at, even when it is, so dark. So The Swimmer from 1968, directed by Frank Perry. I gave this one 4 stars. Another dark film. Now, I had found this one on DVD one day in Savers. In the end of August, I found myself rewatching In the Company of Men from 1997, directed by Neil LaBute. The tagline is, "Are all men bastards or just misunderstood?" 2 business executives, one an avowed misogynist, the other recently emotionally wounded by his love interest, set out to exact revenge on the female gender by seeking out the most innocent, uncorrupted girl they can find and ruining her life. In the day and age of conversation about incels and misogyny and just the general terrible ways that men are who they are, unfortunately, this one still pretty much works. I think it's a more accessible film in this day and age, unfortunately. And if you've never seen it, I would recommend it. Now, I think it does have some issues, with just indie trappings of the way that movies were made, like in the late 90s, and things that are just, kind of the film being a little, how do I say it? A product of its time and also the way it was made. Yeah, I think that's the only way to say it. It's an independent film, so, there's some corners cut here and there you can see. But I think it's still a good film, and good performances by Aaron Eckhart and Matt Malloy. I would say check this one out, but move cautiously if you're going to explore the filmography of Neil LaBute, however, because a lot of his movies feel very much like akin to this one in their conversations and the way that they talk about things. But then again, you've got movies like Possession with Gwyneth Paltrow and Aaron Eckhart that does not feel like that. And then you've got The Wicker Man, which is just a disaster, and I have always really hated the way that people view the Wicker Man movie as like a joke. And to me, it just feels like a movie that studio intervention wanted to remove a lot of things from that it could have been talking about, but who knows for sure. Actually, I haven't looked that up enough to know for sure, if I'm being frank about that. But then again, he's made movies that I did like Nurse Betty and The Shape of Things, and I don't quite remember how I felt about Your Friends and Neighbors, which is probably the closest to In the Company of Men. Nevertheless, Neil LaBute has always been kind of a notable, how do I say it, explorer of difficult conversations, and also definitely somebody who has portrayed misogyny in many of his works, and always been controversial. I wouldn't say I was a fan at all, but I have seen some of his works and enjoyed them. Though it would be really interesting to go start at the beginning, now that I've seen In the Company of Men again, then work through his filmography to sort of see the progression or not of his works. And we're talking about 1997. This is 28 years ago. I don't think any of his movies have aged well. I'm assuming. I don't know if I would go back and... Oh, he did a movie with Diane Kruger recently. I did not know this. I even put this in my watch list. What? I'm gonna have to watch it. It's probably terrible. But yeah, In the Company of Men from 1997, directed by Neil LaBute. I would say give this one a shot if you have not seen it and are interested in something with biting commentary that is definitely relevant today. Now, in early September, I went to Camp John Waters, and at Camp John Waters, they play movies by John Waters. And given that Amy Locane was coming to camp this year as a guest, I went ahead and watched Crybaby at camp the day before she arrived. There's a cabin that they have during the daytime. It's not like a cabin where people sleep. It's like a cabin where they have like a TV and seating available where people can watch movies. Then they have an outdoor theater that people can sit down and watch, like the Camper Video Festival. They have like that happens every year, which is really cool because there's a lot of people who are creative who go to camp. And then they show midnight movies of John Waters' films. Anyway, one afternoon at camp, the day before Amy Locane arrived, I watched Crybaby from 1990, directed by John Waters. Good girls want him bad, bad girls want him worse. A prim and proper schoolgirl goes against her society grandmother's wishes when she dates a motorcycle-riding juvenile delinquent. I don't hate this movie. I gave it 2.5 stars, but I've always felt it was like a little sloppy for what it is, and maybe not as like linear as some of John Waters' other films are. Like it kind of feels like it's got a lot of ideas and isn't really editing them rather, in a way that feels like a fulfilling story. That's not to say I think this is a bad movie. I think it's actually pretty well made, and the performances are all really solid. Susan Tyrrell as Ramona is really good, as is just little performance bits like Iggy Pop showing up, Tracy Lords, Ricky Lake, Johnny Depp, Amy Locane. Yeah, they're all good in this. Patricia Hearst is also in this briefly as Wanda's mother. I love when she shows up in all of John Waters' movies because she's kind of always playing like the same character. Just this innocent lady who's like, honey, what are you doing? It's so funny when she shows up. But yeah, I think Crybaby's okay. It's not, I don't think it's my least favorite John Waters movie. Or maybe it is. Oh no, I think it is. Oops. Yeah, I just wouldn't give this one 3 stars. I gave it 2.5. Like I said, it just feels like it kind of loses its way a little bit because it's got so much it wants to focus on. But I know it has a reputation because it has been such a major part of so many young persons' like upbringing of like they grew up in the late 80s, early 90s, and of course Johnny Depp was a thing. But this hits the spot of being like a PG-13 kind of comedy with brief romance and desire. And yeah, I gotta assume this was like advertised in 17 magazine when it came out and all the girls went and saw it. Yeah, so Crybaby from 1990, directed by John Waters. I gave it 2.5 stars. And the only reason I was probably not involved with that sort of feeling on a movie at that time with like, you know, the teeny bop kind of fascination, I was just too young. I was 5. Okay, up next, I rewatched The Phoenician Scheme from 2025, directed by Wes Anderson. It's If Something Gets in Your Way, Flatten It. Wealthy businessman Zsa Zsa Corda appoints his only daughter, a nun, as the sole heir to his estate. As Corda embarks on a new enterprise, they soon become the target of scheming tycoons, foreign terrorists, and determined assassins. This is a fun movie. I like this one. One of my favorites of the year so far. I think everybody's really solid in this. Benicio del Toro, Mia Threepleton, Michael Cera. What a terrific performance. And then it has an all-star cast of Riz Ahmed, Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, Matthew Almeric, Richard Ayoade, Benedict Cumberbatch, Jeffrey Wright, Scarlett Johansson, Rupert Friend, Hope Davis, Bill Murray, Willem Dafoe, Charlotte Gainsbourg, F. Murray Abraham. Yeah, it keeps going. Stephen Parks, Scott Shepherd. Yeah, it's a huge cast. Really fun movie. Kind of, how do I say it? As Wes Anderson-y as they come. So if you don't like his movies, you're probably not going to like it, but I thought it was fun. Looks lovely, of course. Like, you expect Wes Anderson to do Wes Anderson things and make it look like a Wes Anderson movie, because why would he do anything else? I gave it 3.5 stars. You can watch it now if you have Peacock. It is on Peacock. And I look forward to it coming to a physical release. Actually, it's already out in a physical release now that I think of it. Maybe I'll get a copy. I don't know. It might come to the Criterion release soon. I have to assume it would. Maybe in like a year or so. And another note, Benicio del Toro in this movie and in One Battle After Another. The guy is having a fantastic, absolutely fantastic year. 2 great performances by the guy. Really great performer. All right, so How do I explain? Well, I talked about going to Camp John Waters, and then on the end of that, I went to Orlando, Florida, and on the flight back, I didn't know what I was going to watch on the plane because I was very much awake, didn't feel like taking a nap. So I put on Tron Legacy from 2010, directed by Joseph Kosinski. The game has changed. Sam Flynn, the tech-savvy and daring son of Kevin Flynn, investigates his father's disappearance and is pulled into the grid. With the help of a mysterious program named Cora, Sam quests to stop evil dictator Clue from crossing into the real world. I've seen this one a couple of times before. I've only logged it twice on Letterboxd, and I think both of those were my rewatches because I did see it in the theater when it first came out. I think this is a fun film, but maybe could be a little shorter. I think the story is kind of bland. It's not very exciting. However, everything about this movie visually and its stylings and how it's designed, like the costumes are great. The casting, I think, is solid. And as much as this is a movie from 2010 that has a character who looks a certain way and is definitely computer generated, I don't think the technology is that bad for this movie and how it looks. And I think it works. Even though it feels dated, it's like it doesn't look too dated compared to stuff that's being done today. I think this is fun. I am so curious how Tron Ares will be for me as an audience member. Because between this and the first Tron movie, I've always thought they were not great movies, but they're fun and they look good, and that's kind of all I need. And Tron Ares, Jared Leto, unfortunately. But I don't know. I will find out. In fact, I will find out tomorrow because I'm going to see it tomorrow and we'll discuss it on the next episode, which is why you're getting this rewatch recap episode before another new episode. I just felt it was more fitting to get that in the next episode. But yeah, I give this 3 stars. Like, I think it's a solid, fun film. Looks great. Still looks great too. Compared to it, I mean, it's 15 years old. It still looks solid. Tron Legacy from 2010, directed by Joseph Kosinski, gave this 3 stars. And if you didn't know, Joseph Kosinski, he also directed Top Gun Maverick and F1, as well as Oblivion, and a movie I hated called Spiderhead. He also directed Only the Brave, which I haven't seen, but I'm not excited for that one. Don't have any interest, really. Now, we're going to close out the episode with 2 movies that I saw on the same night at my local Regal cinemas. Because in the month of September, Regal was doing a special classics months where they were showing classic-ish films. I say ish because there's some movies I'm like, those are just popular, not really classic. Every night of the month of September, showing a different movie to some degree, a classic. And on one night, they actually showed 2 movies. If you were lucky enough, you were able to see Before Sunrise and Before Sunset on the same night. So let's start with Before Sunrise from 1995, directed by Richard Linklater. Can the greatest romance of your life last only one night? An unexpected meeting on a train leads 2 travelers to spend an evening wandering through Vienna. As the night unfolds, they share stories and conversations about life and love, exploring new ideas, while a quiet intimacy grows between them, knowing it may be their only night together. It's just beautiful. It's such a lovely film. I've seen this a number of times before, but this just takes me back to like the first time I've seen it, and how you just see these 2 characters, Jesse and Celine, who are played by Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, just fall in love together. And then they leave. It is over. Will we ever know what their future is? What will happen to them? Well, it just so happens that in 2004, they meet again. In Before Sunset from 2004, directed by Richard Linklater. What if you had a second chance with the one that got away? 9 years later, Jesse travels across Europe giving readings from a book he wrote about the night he spent in Vienna with Celine. After his reading in Paris, Celine finds him, and they spend part of the day together before Jesse has to again leave for a flight. They are both in relationships now, and Jesse has a son, but as their strong feelings for each other start to return, both confess a longing for more. Oh, gosh. Oh, the romance. And this one is so great, not just because it's these two people getting back together, it's that they have more life experiences and there's more things that they can talk about together, excuse me. And it's not just, oh, you're so lovely and I'm having such a good time, and just those lighter conversations. It's a bit heavier because there's more stakes involved with them existing together as people who are both fond of each other. And good God, this movie, it's perfect. It's just such a perfect film. I have really no complaints about it. Celine is just as kooky as she was before, but she's older now, so she's a little wiser, but she's still who she is. And Jesse is just as conflicted about life then as he is now. And well, it's just like he's the same person, she's the same person, but they're older and it's just different, but it's also the same. And I love these two movies. Before Sunrise definitely gets 4 stars for me, but Before Sunset, that's a 5-star. One of my favorite films of all time. It's just a beautiful portrait of like how you can just connect with someone and it changes your life. And if you haven't seen these movies, goodness, please watch these movies. And then there's another sequel, Before Midnight, which is a very different film, but in all the right ways, and everybody's wonderful again. Can't get enough, and I don't want them to make another movie. I know it's been sort of like been a conversation of like, oh, they should get back. No. I'm like fine with it being a trilogy. Just leave it as it is, because how relationships evolve and how people evolve, it feels so true in these movies, how these people work together and how they talk, and it's delightful for better or worse. Yeah, and that is the episode. That's all the stuff I've rewatched in the months of July, August, and September. So coming up on the next episode, have been to the theater, have seen some new movies. We're going to have to talk about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then tomorrow, Tron Ares. So that makes 6 movies on the next episode that are new to me, and I will tell you all about them soon. But I am Mallory. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We'll do another rewatch recap episode at the beginning of January to talk about everything I've watched again from the months of October, November, and December. And I've already seen something for a second time just this past weekend, so that's cool. I'm already started. But yeah, if you want to follow along for more episode details and such, go to cinema5000.com. On the blog, I generally will post the YouTube versions of the episodes. If you want to search on YouTube, it's Cinema 5000 Podcast. On Bluesky, you can follow along. Look for Cinema 5000. And if you want to send an email, send it to cinema5000.com. Again, my name is Mallory. This is my podcast. Just me talking movies. Okay, thanks so much for listening. I'll talk to you later. Bye.